Hey everyone, this is Kit with Chicago Reacts. We all know about Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte, the Emperor of the French Empire. And the thing is, he gets a lot of attention, as he should. He's a well-known historical figure. We think of great conquerors like Genghis Khan, Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar, Napoleon Bonaparte, and so many others that have ruled the world. But see, the thing is, they can't do everything by themselves, because let's face it, they need other people to do the work for them as well. And let's look at Napoleon, for example. He had his Marshals. And in this video, we are going to be reacting to Napoleon's Marshals, Part 1 by Epic History. Let's find out all that we can about Napoleon Bonaparte's Marshals. Part 1.
Terror belli, decus pacis. Terror in war, ornament in peace. The words inscribed on every French marshal's baton. In France, the title of Marshal or Maréchal goes back at least to the 13th century. It represents the highest possible position of military authority. Authority symbolized by a marshal's baton. The title...
If you give me any lip, you'll get the baton. The old saying is still true to this day. Looking at my shoes, you get the baton. Talking out of turn, you get the baton. Using the baton for the baton parade, oh, you better believe that that's a baton.
Was abolished during the French Revolution as incompatible with the egalitarian spirit of the age.
Oh, boo.
But in 1804, Napoleon founded a new empire and restored the ancient rank. That year, he picked 18 of France's best generals and made them marshals of the empire.
Wow.
8 more were created in the years that followed. The marshals outranked everyone in the new empire, apart from Napoleon's family, princes, and ministers of state. They came from every background, sons of aristocrats and innkeepers, professional soldiers, and those who'd learned on the job, old school Republicans and Bonaparte loyalists. The youngest, just half the age of the oldest.
Whoa, okay, so that guy is 34 years old. That dude is 68 years old. That is, wow, interesting.
And though Marshal was a civil title, not strictly a military rank, the men known to the army as les gros bonnets, the big hats, were arguably the most extraordinary, diverse, brilliant, and flawed group of military commanders in history. The most favored were showered with titles and wealth. But the price too was high. Half were wounded, 3 were killed or died of wounds. 2 were executed.
I shouldn't laugh at that. That picture was kind of funny.
This is Epic History TV's guide to Napoleon's Marshals. All 26 have been ranked according to our own evaluation of their achievements as marshals, with expert guidance from retired Lieutenant Colonel Remy Porte, former chief historian of the French Army. First, a thank you to our sponsor, Call of War. Call of War is a free online PvP strategy game played by millions of users worldwide that gives you the chance to rewrite World War II history. Choose your country, join the war, and fight other players in epic real-time campaigns that unfold over the course of weeks. Get to know the strengths of multiple unit types and use them to come up with a strategy to crush your enemies by land, air, and sea. Research trees unlock more devastating weapons, all the way up to atomic bombs. Build an empire by conquering territory and capturing capitals, while forging strategic alliances with other players to reach your goals. Call of War is fully cross-platform and can be played on the same account on PC or mobile. Click on the link below to get 13,000 gold and 1 month of High Command subscription for free. Available only for 30 days.
So, check out Call of War and support epic history. Do it.
More than 2,000 French generals served in the Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars. Many were brilliant leaders. A few probably deserved to be marshals, more than some who were. Any selection can only be difficult and highly subjective, but here's our pick of 12 of the best. Bertrand, Napoleon's faithful aide-de-camp, who commanded 4th Corps at the Battle of Leipzig. Clausel, a veteran commander of the war in Spain.
Okay.
Desaix, Napoleon's close friend, killed at Marengo, aged 31.
Oh, yes. The reactors reacted to that one, and that was a devastating blow to Napoleon.
Prince Eugène, Napoleon's adopted son, a hero of the Russian retreat. Gérard, one of Napoleon's best corps commanders by 1814, made a marshal by King Louis-Philippe in 1830. Goudon, whose infantry division bore the brunt of the fighting at Auerstedt in 1806, died of wounds near Smolensk in 1812. Junot, who first served with Napoleon at Toulon in 1793, probably committed suicide after his fall from favor in 1813.
Oh.
Lassalle, the Hussar general, among the best light cavalry commanders of...
Digging that mustache too, buddy, man. You're rocking it, dude. You're just rocking it, man.
the Napoleonic Wars, killed at Wagram, aged 34.
Oh.
Maison, who told his division on the morning of Leipzig that they must win that day or all be killed, made marshal by King Charles X in 1829. Nansouty, the heavy cavalry commander who died of wounds and exhaustion, aged 46. Saint-Hilaire, hero of Austerlitz, died of wounds received at Aspern in 1809. Vandamme, of whom Napoleon once said, "If I had to invade hell, I'd want him commanding the vanguard." And now, Napoleon's 26 marshals, ranked in order of merit. 26. Marshal Pérignon. When Napoleon created the first 18 marshals,
Hey, buddy, maybe get a wig or something. Nothing against you, but there we go.
4 were honorary marshals, recognized for past service to France. Pérignon was one of these. A former officer in the Royal Army, he'd won fame in the Revolutionary Wars, fighting the Spanish on the Pyrenees front. He later served as ambassador to Spain. After a brief retirement, he was sent to Italy and commanded the French left wing at the disastrous Battle of Novi, where the army was routed by Suvorov's Russians, and Pérignon was badly wounded and captured. His appointment as honorary marshal in 1804 was a political move by Napoleon, a way to win acceptance for his new empire, by emphasizing continuity with the revolution, by rewarding its military heroes. Pérignon never held active command as a marshal, but served as governor of Parma, and later Naples. His eldest son, Pierre, was a cavalry officer, killed at Friedland in 1807. Pérignon retired in 1813, but refused to support Napoleon when he returned from exile in 1815 and was stripped of his marshal's baton.
What?
His rank was later restored by King Louis XVIII.
Orson Welles, I think, played King Louis in the Waterloo movie. I think. Maybe I'm getting senile, but yeah, it was, again, check out the Waterloo movie.
25. Marshal Brune.
Marshal Brune.
Brune was another marshal whose appointment owed much to politics. As a fiery Republican and former close ally of revolutionary leader Georges Danton,
Danton! Again, that's another movie. Danton, check it out too. Talks about the revolution, or the French Revolution. Danton. Danton. What a shame that you had to fall at the hands of the national razor. I'm not talking about Gillette. Rest in peace. Danton. Danton!
His support was politically useful for Napoleon. Brune joined the army during the Terror, the most extreme period of the revolution.
Danton is about the Terror and what took place. It's a great movie. You can watch it either with subtitles or you could hear the English dub version, but it's better to watch it in French and read the subtitles. Check it out. I really recommend it because it talks about free speech and independence and the revolution in France. It's a worthwhile movie. I can't recommend it enough.
His political connections ensured rapid promotion, and he was sent to help put down a counter-revolutionary revolt in Bordeaux. In 1795, as a 30-year-old brigadier general, he helped Napoleon disperse a royalist mob in Paris with the famous whiff of grape shot. Brune then served with Napoleon in Italy, fighting in several of his famous early victories. He won a reputation as a fierce divisional commander and enthusiastic plunderer of Italian towns and churches. In 1798, he commanded the French occupation of Switzerland, while extorting 200,000 francs from the wealthy Swiss communes, the equivalent of several $1 million today.
Come on, man.
It was said that Brune's personal carriage was so laden with gold when it left Switzerland that it immediately broke down. The next year, he won his most important victory while commanding French forces in Holland, defeating an Anglo-Russian army at the Battle of Castricum and saving France from invasion. But a short, calamitous spell commanding the army of Italy convinced Napoleon that Brune was not fit for high command. Instead, he sent him to be ambassador to the Ottoman Empire, where in 1804 he learned that he'd been made a marshal. But Brune's lack of delicacy, combined with a towering sense of self-importance, did not make him a successful diplomat. He was recalled to France, but as governor...
What that means is that he probably pissed off someone within the Ottoman Empire, either in the royal court or someone in the Ottoman Empire, and he just really screwed up, which means, yeah, he was an asshole.
Of the Hanseatic ports blundered again, drafting a treaty with Sweden that failed to make any mention of the French emperor. Whether a deliberate insult or act of incompetence, Napoleon was furious, and Brune was sacked.
He's an
Brune
idiot.
spent the next 7 years at his country estate. He bitterly opposed the return of the Bourbon monarchy in 1814, and rallied to Napoleon when he returned from exile the next year.
Okay.
But in the tumult following Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo, Brune was cornered by a royalist mob in Avignon, murdered, and tossed into the River Rhone.
Wow. Way to go out, man.
24. Marshal Serrurier.
Wow, so you retain all the characteristics and severity of an infantry major, an honest man with integrity and reliability, but unfortunate as a general.
Serrurier was another of the 4 honorary marshals whom Napoleon wished to recognize for past service.
Okay.
In contrast to Brune, Serrurier was a professional soldier of the old school, a veteran of the 7 Years' War, and a stern disciplinarian. This background was not necessarily an asset during the French Revolution, when any officer who'd served in the Royal Army was viewed with suspicion. But Colonel Serrurier's training and diligence were soon recognized as assets to the new French Republic.
Yeah, you gotta have someone who
By
knows what they're doing.
1795, he was a general serving with Napoleon in Italy, where his stand against corruption and looting won him the nickname the Virgin of Italy.
That's yeah, well, okay. On one hand, it's good. On the other hand, it's like, oh, you're the Virgin of Italy? Like, no, what he meant is I am honorable, but I'm not a Virgin of Italy. Come on, guys, quit screwing around. There's probably like graffiti in French barracks and they're saying that about him.
Serrurier was a reliable, if unspectacular, commander who won an important victory at Mondovi at a crucial moment in Napoleon's rise to fame. The following year, he accepted the Austrian surrender at the end of the long siege of Mantua. 2 years later, Fighting under General Moreau's command, Serrurier and his division were cut off by the Russians and forced to surrender. Released on parole, he was back in Paris in time to support Napoleon's coup d'etat of 18 Brumaire. Serrurier then retired from active command, but Napoleon, remembering his past service, made him an honorary marshal and governor of Les Invalides, the retirement home and hospital for old soldiers.
Okay.
There, shortly before the fall of Paris in 1814, Serrurier oversaw the burning of more than 1,000 captured flags and standards to prevent them falling into Allied hands. 23. Marshal Kellerman.
I think that I was probably the boldest general who ever lived, but even I wouldn't have dared to take a post there.
Kellerman was another honorary marshal, the oldest at 68, and famed throughout France as the savior of the revolution. A career soldier from a middle-class background, he'd seen distinct...
Whoa, he died at 85? In that day and age? Wow, he lived a long life.
distinguished service as a cavalry officer in the 7 Years' War. At the beginning of the Revolutionary Wars, he was a general, commanding a frontier army at the moment of greatest crisis, when it seemed foreign invasion was about to stamp out the revolution and restore the ancien régime. But at Valmy, in September 1792, Kellerman's Army of the Centre stood its ground, and with a ferocious artillery barrage, persuaded the Prussian army to withdraw. Valmy was not a stunning tactical victory, but it was a turning point of history that saved the infant French Republic. When the revolution took a more radical turn, even a war hero like Kellerman became suspected of royalist links and spent a year in prison under the threat of the guillotine. Acquitted and restored to command, he was poised to launch a new offensive in Italy when he was sidelined, first by General Scherer, then in favor of a rising new talent, General Bonaparte. Kellerman later specialized in army administration and training, a role he continued to perform under Napoleon, whilst also entering politics and serving as President of the Senate. His son, General François-Étienne Kellerman, followed in his father's footsteps, serving as one of Napoleon's best cavalry commanders. 22. Marshal Grouchy.
Let's see. His conduct was as unforeseeable as if his army on the march had been struck by an earthquake and swallowed up. Napoleon, on Grouchy's failure to march to his aid during the Battle of Waterloo. That's right, because there's a scene in that movie where two of the marshals, who are supposed to be the relief force for Napoleon, are just taking their dear-ass sweet time. Check out Waterloo. Can't recommend it enough.
When Napoleon returned from his first exile in 1815, he created one last marshal for the upcoming campaign, Emmanuel de Grouchy. Although now infamous for failing to march to Napoleon's aid during the Battle of Waterloo, up to that moment Grouchy had had a long and distinguished military career. An aristocrat who embraced the French Revolution, Grouchy served with distinction throughout the Revolutionary Wars, fighting counter-revolutionaries in the Vendée and serving in Italy, where he was wounded and captured at the Battle of Novi. Under the Empire, Grouchy excelled as commander of a dragoon division in Marshal Murat's cavalry reserve. He was praised by the Emperor for his part in the Great French Charge at Eylau, played an important role buying time for Napoleon at Friedland, and expertly covered the French right wing at Wagram.
Wow.
For the invasion of Russia, he commanded 3rd Cavalry Corps and was wounded at Borodino. He survived the horrors of the retreat, but was left so exhausted it took him several months to recover. He returned for Napoleon's 1814 campaign in France, and was wounded twice more. Grouchy was made a marshal at the start of the 100 Days campaign and commanded Napoleon's right wing at Ligny. After the battle was won, he was ordered to pursue the retreating Prussians to prevent them joining up with Wellington's Anglo-Allied army.
No.
2 days later, as the Battle of Waterloo raged 10 miles to the west, Grouchy made the fateful decision to follow his written orders rather than march to join Napoleon, and has been widely blamed for the French Emperor's defeat ever since. Grouchy's vilification is not wholly fair, not least because Napoleon rarely encouraged his marshals to show initiative, and often flew into rages if they deviated from his written orders.
Yeah.
Nor should one blunder obscure the distinguished record of one of the Grande Armée's best cavalry generals. Grouchy fled to America after Napoleon's defeat to escape royalist reprisals, but was pardoned and returned to France in 1820. 21. Marshal Moncey.
He was an honest man, Napoleon. Huh. Okay. I guess so. We'll find out how much of an honest person he is. If he's like Honest Abe, we here at the studio will say that Marshal Moncey is an honest man. Right? Okay, we got a couple of thumbs up there. All right, there you go.
Moncey ran away from home to join the army at the age of 15.
Okay, well,
After
all right.
20 years of uneventful service, he'd risen no higher than the rank of captain. But then came the French Revolution. Most French officers were aristocrats, who, if they did not actively oppose the revolution, were nevertheless regarded as politically suspect. The result was that 3/4 of them either fled the country or were dismissed from the army. Moncey, a middle-class officer with no strong political views, reaped the benefit with meteoric promotion. By 1794, General Moncey was leading the army of the Western Pyrenees to victory over the Spanish, on what was admittedly a relative backwater of the Revolutionary Wars. In 1797, he was dismissed for alleged royalist sympathies, but reinstated in time to support Napoleon's coup of 18 Brumaire. By his own admission, Moncey was a sensitive officer, honest, honourable, but lacking a ruthless streak or iron will to succeed.
This sensibility has affected my spirit in such a way as to render it stupid. Okay, well, at least you're honest, buddy.
Napoleon was aware of his limitations as a general, but made him a marshal in 1804 as part of his emphasis on continuity between the Republic and his new empire. Moncey was appointed Inspector General of the Gendarmerie, France's militarized police force, and spent most of the rest of his career commanding reserve troops. He only held one field command again. In light of his victorious record against the Spanish, he was given command of a corps for the 1808 invasion of Spain.
Oh, boy.
Operating.
And I think we all know how that turned out, right, everyone? We should have like a laughter track, like here, and just push the button, and there's like an audience laughter.
In the south of the country with mixed success. In 1809, he was replaced by General Junot and returned to France. Moncey's finest hour came in the dying days of the Empire, leading the National Guard of Paris in a courageous but doomed defense of the French capital. In 1815, the restored King of France, Louis XVIII, ordered Marshal Moncey to preside at the trial of Marshal Ney for treason. Moncey regarded Ney as a hero for having saved...
You not know who I am? It is me, Marshal Ney!
...so many French lives in Russia, and refused, declaring, "If I am not allowed to save my country nor my own life, then at least I will save my honor." After a short spell in prison, Moncey was allowed to resume his military career, becoming governor of Les Invalides.
So in other words, Moncey was not a snitch. He didn't rat on his boy Marshal Ney because he remembered who Marshal Ney is. That is okay. You know what? You might be at the bottom. At least you're not at the bottom of the list, Moncey. But you know what? you're up there in my list of people who are not rats, because snitches get stitches, and you did not snitch on your boy, so well done.
in which role he presided over the repatriation of Napoleon's remains from St. Helena in 1840. At the end of the ceremony, the 86-year-old Marshal Moncey announced, "And now, let us go home to die."
Okay, so he took care of the remains of Napoleon Bonaparte and did it, an end of an era. Wow. I think we can agree he was an honest man. Maybe not perfect, but all right. That's a way to when you get to the end of a book, you close it. I think he might have been a little bit too brutal saying, "Now let's all go home to die," but hey, when you get 86, it's like, okay, how much longer do I have to be around this planet with all you people? Time to wrap it up. My show's done.
Marshal Poniatowski.
A man of noble character, brimming over with honor and bravery.
Prince Józef Poniatowski was the King of Poland's nephew, but his military career began as a cavalry officer in the Austrian army, even serving as aide-de-camp to Emperor Józef II himself. In 1789, he transferred to the Polish army with the rank of Major General, but could not save Poland from partition by its rapacious neighbors, Russia, Prussia, and Austria.
And our other reactors reacted to this story about what happened to Poland. And they were being swallowed up by Austria, Prussia, and Russia.
By 1795, Poland had vanished from the map, swallowed up by its rivals. After Napoleon's defeat of Prussia in 1806, Poniatowski decided loyal service to the French Emperor was the best way to win Poland's restoration, although he never fully trusted Napoleon's aims. Somber, serious, and brave, Poniatowski proved an able commander of Duchy of Warsaw forces in Napoleon's service. When war broke out with Austria in 1809, while Napoleon advanced on Vienna, Poniatowski waged a brilliant supporting campaign against a larger Austrian army in Galicia. For the invasion of Russia, he commanded the Polish Fifth Corps. He and his troops distinguished themselves first at Smolensk and again at Borodino, leading the attack on the right wing. Poniatowski and his corps performed heroically throughout the campaign, motivated in part by their old animosity towards Russia. But by the end of the retreat, Fifth Corps had been virtually destroyed.
Wow.
Poniatowski remained loyal to Napoleon, even though the disaster in Russia paved the way for the Russian reoccupation of Poland. He rejoined Napoleon in Germany in 1813 and was given command of the Polish Eighth Corps. On the eve of the Battle of Leipzig, he was made a marshal by Napoleon in recognition of his service and to inspire his Polish troops. Poniatowski was the only non-Frenchman to receive this honor.
Congratulations.
He and his troops fought with their usual tenacity and skill at Leipzig, holding key villages on the southern front against the Austrian and Prussian onslaught. At the end of the battle, Poniatowski commanded part of the rearguard. But their only escape route, a bridge over the Elster River, was blown up too soon. Badly wounded, Poniatowski tried to escape by riding his horse across the river, but he was swept from his saddle and drowned. He had been a marshal for just 4 days. In the short term, Poniatowski's loyalty to France achieved nothing, as following Napoleon's defeat, Russia occupied Poland for the next century. But Poniatowski's legend lived on, a model of Polish patriotism that inspired future generations.
So he is immortal.
19. Marshal Jourdan.
Jourdan. I certainly use that man. I certainly use that man very ill. Jourdan is a true patriot, and that is the answer to many things that have been said about him. Oh, Okay.
As a young French private, Jourdan saw combat in Georgia during the American Revolutionary War, but he then caught a fever that led to his discharge and plagued him for the rest of his life.
Wow.
When the French Revolution began, he was elected captain of his local National Guard unit, fought at the battles of Jemappes and Hochschutter, and was rapidly promoted to general. In 1794, he made his name defeating coalition forces at the Battle of Fleurus. This was a crucial victory of the Revolutionary War, which handed France control of Belgium for 20 years. It was also notable for the French army's use of balloon reconnaissance, the first effective use of an aircraft in military history.
All right, so that man is very creative, you know? Sometimes you gotta fly. Hey guys, I got this plan. I'm gonna put a person in a basket with a balloon and put them in the air. Gee, Jordan, does that sound like a safe thing to do? No, it doesn't, but we're gonna try it anyways.
Jourdan became a prominent politician under the Directory, lending his name to a law that formalized France's policy of mass conscription. As a committed Republican, Jourdan refused to support Napoleon's coup of 18 Brumaire.
Wow.
But his fame as the victor of Fleurus was enough to ensure he became a marshal in 1804. Jourdan was on good terms with Napoleon's elder brother, Joseph. When Joseph became king of Spain in 1808, Jourdan went with him as his military advisor. But the situation in Spain would prove beyond Jourdan's military skills to solve. He faced stubborn resistance from the Spanish and Portuguese, supported by the British, and an equally stubborn refusal to cooperate from other French marshals in Spain, theoretically under Jourdan's command, but who repeatedly ignored his orders and openly questioned his competence.
Wow.
Marshal Soult in Andalusia was a prime offender, while Marshal Victor's insubordination at the Battle of Talavera contributed directly to the French defeat. Struck by another bout of ill health, Jourdan went home to recover. 2 years later, he returned to Spain. But at the Battle of Vitoria in 1813, he and King Joseph were outmaneuvered and decisively beaten by Wellington.
Wellington, that man fights sitting on his ass.
Leading to the collapse of the Bonapartist Kingdom of Spain. Jourdan never held a major command again, but his 20 years of service and evident patriotism were widely recognized and respected. He was made a peer by Napoleon, a count by Louis XVIII, and died in 1833 while serving as governor of Les Invalides. Perignon, Brune, Serrurier, Kellerman, Grouchy, Moncey, Poniatowski, Jourdan. 8 down, 18 to go.
18.
Join us for part 2, when we'll continue the countdown. Coming soon.
All right, wow. So we got 18 more Primarchs. 18 more Marshals to talk about in Napoleon's Grand Army. I'm sorry, my inner 40K just went up as soon as I heard 18, as we all know. But in fact, the real answer is that there's 20, but shh on that one. But anyways, so far, looking at all these individuals, Grouchy probably got was blamed for that defeat for Napoleon Waterloo. He really stood out, but he was following those orders, and apparently, if what's true is that Napoleon would fly in fits of rage if he didn't follow those orders to the letter. I could understand it. And then Moncey, honest man. I think I like him the most out of all of them. He didn't rat out on Marshal Ney because he remembers who Marshal Ney is. So I'm going to be quoting a lot of Waterloo in these videos, folks. So watch Waterloo. It's actually a pretty good movie. So there we go.